Hello and welcome to the Meditation Conversation, the podcast to support your spiritual revolution. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Roy Coughlan. Roy is a podcasting coach with 5 podcasts, including the Awakening podcast and the Meditation podcast. He's produced and edited over 1,000 episodes, including top guests like Mikey Willis, David Icke, Thomas Renz, Sherry Tenpenny, and more. He's founded over 15 companies that were in 5 different countries. So Roy, welcome. I'm so excited to be with you today.
Thank you very much, Kara, for having me on the show. Looking forward to this.
So let's start by talking about your path and what led to meditation being such a big part of your journey.
So I moved to Poland about 16 years ago, and I set up a lot of different businesses, and I was doing kind of real estate, and I had lots of syndicates. So I was kind of like 25% shareholder, 30% shareholder, but I was the CEO of all these companies. And the investors that I got were like the big boys. Some of them were worth 20 million euro, 10 million euro. I was just after making, say, the first million from properties in Ireland. And I was kind of looking, okay, if I get all these different projects, I was building apartments and everything, I'd get to maybe 5 million. And then the kind of crash happened. And I was actually okay. I was doing well with my own business. I was like managing properties, renovating them. So that was doing well. Then sales as well, like I was doing the real estate side. So when things stopped, it was like the investors that I had, they started losing everything. And I thought it would come right. They'll get it sorted because they fell first. And I started reinvesting into, say, like a commercial. So I put like another 150,000 into it, saying, hey, I'll just increase my shareholding. This will come right.
And you're talking about like 2008.
It was a bit later by the time it moved across the pond, but yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
But the time.
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah. And so I started investing more, and eventually I realized they weren't actually going to get right. And then I was running out of money, and one fell and they all fell. And yeah, and basically, usually with a limited liability company, it's kind of like, lost it. Let's brush ourselves off and go again. In Poland, you're personally liable when you're the president. And nobody told me. The solicitors didn't tell me that, and the accountants didn't tell me that. So I was there. Instead of making 5 million, I was personally liable for 5 million.
Oh my gosh.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And so it was a hard time for me, to be honest, because like you're dealing with the bailiffs and everything. And even prior to things going wrong, I would talk to the bank and I say, listen, I can split this side up. I'll do this, I'll do that. And they say, grand. And next they'll turn the bailiffs on me. Like their word was nothing. Like it was like everything they were.
When you say bailiffs.
Like sheriff kind of thing, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So then, like, I was watching like how everything was faring out. So for example, a commercial property, I'll talk in US dollars just to, even though it was Polish zlotys, but a property that was like 1.25 million, they said this is valued at 500,000. So the bailiffs were in cahoots with the valuer, which is impossible for a property to drop like that. And then what they do is they do a flash sale. So they put it up on the screen. So the first auction is at 75%. The second is at 50%. They put it up on the screen, take a screenshot and take it down. Nobody knows the auction is there. Nobody turns up. Then they have their own cronies to buy it the next time. So they're buying a property that was worth 1.25 million for 250,000.
The government, essentially.
Well,
or how they're all in bed together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The city, the banks, them representing each other. So that was one that had gone on. But what happened with that one, because I had a bit of luck, I suppose, a guy that I knew bought it and basically just took everything off so that I wasn't personally liable. So he got it at a very good price, better than what they were going to take themselves. But it just cleared the decks of one big company. And the same guy, it just shows how sometimes you just do things right. I remember there was we had 4 houses. So basically the project that I was doing, one of the sites was to actually pay for the 4 sites. 2 of the houses would have built the whole lot, and the other one was the profit. So it was like 25 to 30% profit, which is decent in kind of real estate. And when the market tanked, they weren't lending out. So basically, the banks, this was all organised around the world. They basically stopped lending. So we had people that wanted to buy and they weren't able to get funding. There was one guy that I knew. He was a professor. His wife was a solicitor. They had one house already. They had 50% down payment and they couldn't get a loan. And I was like, they've just turned off the tap. So basically, this guy started inquiring about these houses. And normally you wouldn't take a call like that or whatever. And I just said, look, come out, I'll show you the projects and everything. And he was the guy that gave me advice, who ended up buying one of the commercial property. But basically, he said, don't go into the auction because they'll be asking the names and then you're kind of liable again. They bribed everybody in the room for that auction.
Really?
And they had their own cronies buying it. So they all got about 1,000. There was something like 14 people in there. And I was looking forward to this one if they were going to come after me. It was done. That was like another $250,000 for that project that was excess. They would have plus penalties and everything. So before you know it. And it was just a case of things like that happening. And I was like, just trying to think of everything to how to get this right. And eventually I just started getting myself back on track. And like, I started listening to the Vishen Lakiani, the 6-phase meditation process. That was the first meditation that I exposed during this time. I don't know if
this I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, when I was deep in this and just, because you're just not thinking straight and it's just,
exactly.
you just,
so your life is in upheaval. You are realizing you can't trust people. It sounds like there's a lot of kind of betrayal going on and the sand is shifting underneath you where you thought you had, because real estate can be a great investment in a healthy market. And suddenly the carpet is pulled out from under you. So it sounds like meditation was really just, I need to get my bearings. I need to have something in this time of turmoil. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And say in Ireland then, because I had 3 properties in Ireland and including my own personal they took it with all my personal belongings and everything. Yeah, they just, I didn't even get notice of the sale or anything. Everything they'd done was corrupt. So then they went to the High Court, took me to the High Court because I'd lost everything. I had to represent myself. The first time they made an error, so I had to go through this and then they just whip it out. And I said, the next time I said to the judge, I said, they've already tried this. They can do it as often as they want, he said. So you're dealing with a bank that has unlimited resources against the public. No. Yeah. And so the way it works in Ireland, it's kind of strange. It's like a whole courtroom with all barristers. Barristers are the top end. Some of them are charging like 10 grand a day. Like most people weren't being represented. So you're going into the kind of master of the High Court just to see will they accept it. Otherwise you lose straight away. And what I was witnessing, there was like, this woman went up, she had a piece of paper, she was shaking, obviously first time in court, didn't know. She goes, my husband's died of cancer, I don't know what to do. I'm very sorry. Bang, rule in favour of the court. Yeah, everything was like that. So I actually managed to get mine to go into a judicial case. And the way they do it is they have an affidavit. So they had sent an affidavit, all lies. Like they had, I think 13 points. I put back, I don't know, something like 45 points because I knew how fraudulent they were. I'd done all this myself. They couldn't answer them and they're supposed to, by law, they're supposed to respond to your affidavit. So they kept trying all tricks and then the barrister was telling me, he'd meet me in the car. He goes, it's actually down this room today. And I don't know, I just got a feeling there's something weird here. And I went and checked in the kind of secretary part. They're going, no, it's in the same place. He was just trying to trick me because if I didn't turn up, bang, rule in favour of the, yeah. So that's the kind of thing. There was one, like a KPMG in the international for accounting firm. One person stood up and they said, we had our account audited and we were overcharged something like €15,000. And the judge says, when was that? 3 years ago. You should have took it up with them then. Bang. Rule in favour of the banks. Yeah. Plus interest penalties. And it was just like everybody.
So where did things go from there? Just like high level, like how did you end up getting through all of this and come out on the other side?
I suppose it's all my life. I've always I stand up for what's right and the more that I could see the corruption, the more fuel that was given me. And unfortunately, across the world, there's a lot of people throwing the towel. And like we all know of that, or they get an illness based on stress. This is people that know exactly what they're doing. This is totally organized. So once I went through the meditation, the 6 phase, like I said, then I kind of started creating my own, because I said, this is taking a bit too long. I don't always have 20 odd minutes. And I'd done my own where I'm kind of just sitting there and just taking through what I'd like to see. And on that, there's the act of forgiveness was probably the most powerful one, because a lot of the time, like a builder or somebody, there was always somebody that had, or the banks, and you have hatreds for them because you're going, they're doing this intentionally. They don't need them. Yeah. They're really hurting people. But then I realized that when you have that anger, it's within your own cells. You're actually hurting yourself. They're not thinking of you. That's the last thing on their head. They're more interested in going to their fancy restaurants and, robbing somebody else. So the smaller ones were easier. You could do it in a kind of few sessions. But others, like, you just think and you go, all right, how did I get into this? And I always brought it back to the baby. That's the one thing that worked, is like, we have unconditional love for a child. And that you look at a baby and it's just pure love. Everybody sees a baby and they just want to cuddle it and smell it. It's like, it's just so beautiful. And you think it was external forces that have made this person who they are, whether the parents were abusive, drinking, drugs, or whatever. And you think they weren't, so they have become who they are because of external circumstances. And by doing that, I allowed forgiveness, which at the time I probably didn't realize it, but it was myself that was getting it. Yeah, so I was then not holding it, allowing myself to, and gratitude was another one as well. It's like, when you go through things like that, it's always you're thinking of the lack of money, the lack of just anger and everything. But when you're grateful for the cup of coffee, grateful for your son just giving you a cuddle, just taught your folks, just having people that have your back, that people didn't just run. Like I was lucky, like in Poland, basically, everyone ran for the hill once the money ran out. But in Ireland, because I had such a good relationship, the accountant and the solicitor, even though they weren't representing me, but basically giving me advice, they were there for me, which meant a lot to me. It just, because most people don't, like, it's just, you're just a number from. So I had great respect for the two of them that had kind of stuck by me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And so did everything end up, you're here now, you're not in prison, seems like you're back on your feet, and that's not really a very long time. We're talking maybe 2010 type of thing. And when you're embroiled in like legal issues, that can really go on for a long time and really be draining. So it seems like that is behind you now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and like the thing is, one of the solicitors at the time was recommending that I go for bankruptcy, and I had all the fight, and I just said, I don't want this, because you're like tired with it. In America, it's a lot better, because like after a year, you're able to just move on, and because business failure rate is very high anyway. So like when you can just lesson learned, nobody goes out intentionally trying to lose something. But it's not the same in a lot of countries, like in Ireland, and it's 10 years. That's like, no matter what you do, you always have that over your head. So I just decided, like an hour before filing, half an hour before, nah, I'm not doing this. And managed to kind of clear the decks and get everything kind of sorted. And
yeah. So now, did this kind of launch you into the crypto world? Because
no.
I don't really know much about crypto. And I know one of your podcasts is the crypto podcast. So I would love to touch on this, because I personally don't know a lot about it and haven't gone very deep into it in my personal exploration. So I would love to hear, like, how did crypto come into focus for you?
So I just go back a little bit. So I went to an event it was a Mind Valley event. It was in Mexico, and it was called What's Your Quest? And when I was there, that was my first time kind of having a break after all this. Like, I felt I deserved to just have a bit of me time. And I was there, like, what's my quest? And I said, I'm going to make it my mission to expose all of this, because people need to know this. Because most people, like, the way they do the letters and everything is, we're going to put you in the newspaper and all this. I mean, you've banks writing you that. They're ringing you up, credit card, ringing you, abusing you. Like, what I know now, I mean, I'm after learning so much. If I had the knowledge that I do now, they wouldn't have got anything off me, because everything they'd done was fraudulent. So at that event, I said, that's what I'm going to do. So it was like the awakening was the thing that I was planning on doing. And the other thing was, there was two brilliant speakers at the event. I hated public speaking. I never, even when I was working for like a corporation, mechanical contractor, leading big projects. And when I had to speak, I just hated it. It wasn't my thing. And I said, I need to be a good speaker to do this. So when I came back, I joined the Toastmasters. Then I joined another Toastmasters. I formed my own Toastmaster club. I became a coach of a Finnish club. And I just went deep. I done every competition that was there. I did an open mic TEDx. I did a comedy open mic. I just said, okay, forget this fair. Started reading all books, Kennedy and TEDx books, and just went, okay, how do I actually change this around? And I did. And like how the podcast journey, which I know is a crypto question, but it's all related. Yeah. So I went to a workshop it was in Estonia for in a Mind Valley event. And basically there was a guy that was, after starting a podcast the year before, was doing a workshop just in his own kind of place. It was just outside of the event. And I went there and I went, oh, I like this. And I said, okay, speaking will be easier. I still wanted to kind of expose, but I said, I need to learn things first. So the very first one was the speaking podcast. And then I did the meditation, because basically with these different events, I was exposed to a lot of people doing different types of meditation. Breath work, I realized, whoa, how powerful breath work is. I mean, when I do breath work for the first time, saw visualizations and everything, it was, and I said, everybody needs to see this. They don't need to be taking drugs, and like you can cure yourself just through our own breath. And so that was the meditation one. Then I did the Polish one, because we're living in Poland, I want to be better at Polish. I was doing Rosetta Stone, I was doing Pilsner, I was getting lessons, but it just wasn't working. So I said, I'll listen to a Polish podcast. They were either scripted or they were only in Polish. And I said, this isn't going to work. So my ex-wife, who was my teacher, like we split up after a year of being married, but like we still had, it wasn't one of these typical breakups where you hate each other, we just realized we weren't for each other. So we started doing a Polish podcast, and that's been number one in a load of countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So then the awakening was the one. It was like, okay, this is my baby. This is one where I'm going to expose fraud and corruption, but with solutions. Because there's a lot of podcasts out there, they're complaining about everything, but it's like, we all know what's going on, but tell me what to do about it. Because there's a lot of people, they even think with the books they're trying, but they're not really, or there's too much fluff in between. They could compress a 300, 400 page book into a 30 page with exactly what you need to do. And so that was my thought process on doing that. And as you said at the start, I've had some amazing guests. But then I realized with the crypto, hey, this is really fraudulent. There's some serious rug pulls and scams going on here. But I didn't want to incorporate it into the awakening, because I said, not everybody understands crypto. I was it took me ages to understand crypto, because just people can't explain it easy. So I wanted to have it that, one, I'm explaining it in an easy way that you go, oh, I get it. And two, exposing the kind of the fraud. And it's doing well. And
so you mean fraud within crypto?
Yeah.
So now, did you start this before? Again, like crypto's not I'm not in that world. I don't really understand it, but I do know that there was a big scandal that went down a few months ago. Somebody, had made $1 gazillion and that disappeared or took it, and things collapsed. But is that kind of what were you already seeing that kind of thing?
Yeah, that was probably FTX that you're talking about. No, but there's because people, they heard of Bitcoin, and then they there's all these alternative coins, and they would get famous people to start promoting it, and people would think a certain person, I think Jake Paul was one of them, the guy that does the boxing, and that fell apart. So there's a lot of stuff going out there, and people just assuming, because you've big influencers with millions of followers getting on board this, they think it's legitimate, and it's not. Most of them haven't the clue, and they're just getting major kickbacks because of this. So there was even one of the dragons that was actually promoting FTX. So
what do you mean dragons?
The dragons, the Shark Tank,
like Dragon's Den.
The American or Canadian Shark Tank. So one of the guys, I forget his name, Kevin O'Leary actually is the name of the guy. So he was actually even promoting this. So there's constant things failing, and there's also people intentionally putting out stuff, getting in all the money, and then it just disappears overnight. And people invest sometimes all their life savings, thinking because they saw somebody buying something at $1,000 in it, they become multimillionaires. That's the way it always goes. But it's who's if you can understand it better. So I'd get in people, talk about how to invest, how to watch it, how to understand it better. And I've even had people that are experienced crypto people comment, I didn't know that. That because I'm coming in with questions that just things that they probably wouldn't normally be asking. And I had a guy on just recently, I just released one, and it's like, hey mom, I bought Bitcoin. And it was basically, he wrote this book to actually be able to explain to his mother how to buy Bitcoin. And I said to him, I wish I had got that when I was told about it. Like 2014 was when I first found out about it. And it was like they were talking about wallets and stuff like that. And I don't get this. And I just kind of walked away, started reading loads of books. The books were just not user friendly. It made no sense to me. So I just never kind of jumped in when I should have. And now it's a case like NFTs as well, like this, just to understand everything. So if, like when you say you don't understand, just go in and start listening to one and just, it'll make sense. Because I'm always asking questions because I know most people don't understand what's this, what's that. And just to simplify it, but by just doing that, one, you might find something that's actually good. But two, when somebody, because what you'll notice, maybe in social media, you'll see people, when the Bitcoin is going up, they're all out selling stuff to you. And I've got this course, I've got that. The minute it drops, crickets, you don't see them. And it's like, they're not legitimate people. And so I just want people to be aware that there's a load of people out there just trying to take their money, and it's hard earned.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So if you were to step back and like your stance on crypto, because if I were listening to this right now, I think I'd be like, Roy is be wary of crypto and maybe stay away from it. But I'm not sure that that's really what your podcast is about. Are you pro crypto in general terms?
I am. I think it can be the saving grace, but I think a lot of the stuff that's out there is government controlled, making it look like that's not government controlled, and people think that they're in control when the reality is they know everything. And I've even proved that because I had a top guy, he's able to infiltrate, a hackathon kind of guy like that, knows everything. And I just said, because this kind of Monero kind of so-called privacy cryptos as well that you can use. And I said, you can have all the secrecy and VPNs and everything. And I said, I don't. So doesn't that just show everything because it comes from one transaction to the other? So the reality is a lot of people, they are trading, and I think they're watching what they're doing, because then they come along and they go, oh, you had a gain, you have capital gains plus interest plus penalties. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you made 10 million, they just come in and take everything off you. But on the other side, if I look at what's going on in the world and who's controlling everything, and they have the printing press, the Federal Reserve and all the things that have done there, that's obviously not the right system. I think it doesn't exist what I believe is actually right. I think we should have a crypto that's for the people, and everybody gets like $1 million, and then there's no inflation, there's nothing, and we're all just working between it. So it's like, if I'm buying your service, I give it, and then you go to your hairdresser, you pay that. We all start off, and then nobody can then be like the billionaires, trillionaires that control everything. And if there is something that, investing in, say if there was a decent Apple or so, like you've got all small shareholders then that are part of that have invested, and it's fully traceable. And I think something like that would work, but it's hard because there's different things going on. There's, say, proof of work, proof of stake, and then combining them. But I believe it is definitely better than the system that we've got at the moment. So I would be pro blockchain technology.
Okay. And there's a lot of talk in the awakening community about the financial system that we have today is not sustainable, and it's on the verge of crumbling because of the changes in the earth in general and the changes in consciousness. And that's the main root cause of this instability, because it is founded on corruption, as you've pointed out. And I did have a question about that. Now I can't think of.
But if we go to say the American dollar, because everything is all oil and everything was traded in the American dollar. Mm-hmm. Jekyll Island, I think it was 1933. So people think that's part of the government. It's not. It's a private organization. And
oil?
No, the Federal Reserve.
Oh, the Federal Reserve is private? I thought it was part of the government.
Everybody does. It's not. You could go in, and I would also like to say, anything I say, and it's because we've discussed this on my own show, that we can take it in and don't take anything at face value. Go away and do your own research. Don't go to Google, because Uncle Google tends to lie as well. Go to Brave. And also, when you're investigating something, it depends on the question that you're asking. So if you say, is this safe? It nearly shows you all the things why something is safe. If you say, why is this dangerous? You get a different result. So make sure you change your question as well.
Is Brave not Microsoft?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh, is that Edge that I'm thinking? What am I thinking?
Chrome was thing, and Binge, I think, is it B-I-N? Bing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Brave is because it was DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, but apparently
that's
Chrome bought, Google bought that. Yeah, that's what I was told. So I stick to that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Brave is the new.
That's the one I've been using for a few years.
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I believed the DuckDuckGo thing, so I had changed all that. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to get my passwords all resaved again. I don't really like the whole tracking thing either. I'm not deep into, because you do start to verge into a lot of fear, like defensive, everybody's out to get me. And with me personally, I know there are a lot of devious things going on in the background, and I'm very sorry with everything that you've experienced, because it sounds like it's been a really tough experience that you've had, and you've had to learn through fire. But I'm so happy that you're using that to help everybody else to understand things without having to go through the same thing that you went through. I have to kind of I can't go super deep into it because I get so defensive and I get so like, oh, everybody's out to get me. And it really just flips me into a vibration that doesn't help me. And so it's this balance. Like, I want to be informed. I don't want to have my head stuck in the sand. And I also want to keep working with my light and not succumbing to this heavy, like, I've got to, constantly defend myself. And so I don't know if you experience a similar thing, and if you have any tips about how to like be informed and be sovereign and not get so defensive and build that like steel trap around your heart,
No, I probably have more experience than most of them out there, because I got kicked off YouTube. I got kicked off Linktree. LinkedIn even removed me for a week. I had to grovel to get that one back. So I kind of understand censorship. Even say my crypto channel and my own personal one on YouTube, I saw the numbers going back like 500. That shouldn't happen. Happens a lot, goes backwards. But
where people just automatically get unsubscribed because of the content.
Oh no, this is actually my views go backwards. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be allowed. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's happened to me so many times.
Literally, the number of people who had watched a show, it goes backwards by like 500. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that says so much.
Yeah, and even the Facebook, because like I've had a few people, they really support me all through it. And one guy, he was like, I know I gave him a thumbs up on that. And he went back all the posts, all his thumbs up were removed.
Oh my gosh.
So it's that deep. And
wow.
What I would say is, because there's been a few podcasters that kind of doing similar to me. And I saw a lot of them stepped away and it got to them, because sometimes we go deep. We go into some like the child stuff. Like I was kind of staying away, but I thought, look, a friend of mine had said, if you're kind of stepping away from it, it's like you're not helping it. And I was like, yeah, that was a slap to me. He was dead right. So I started going, and like, I mean, there's times my research, I would even cry from what I'd learned. But what I can do is I can step away, and then I make sure I'm looking at comedies and I'm doing things that kind of make me happy. I can step in and step out. And I say to people, if you can't do that, just limit it, reduce it. Because unless you've trained yourself to be able to step away, because like you say, you have to stay in the positive. You can do 100 times more when you're in the right frame of mind. And if this is, because it depresses a lot of people. It becomes a topic of conversation. Everywhere you go, then it just becomes the same thing. So try to have friends that don't talk about nothing like that, or just make it a deal. Nobody's allowed to talk about this. If you talk about this, you pay for the bill if you're going for a meal or something like that. Just to make fun, things like that. But like what I do is I just follow comedians. I look at shows that are good, and sometimes just escapism. You might just watch a movie out and just, I know that it's a form of escapism that you're not deep down the trap the whole time. And I think by doing that, you're staying in the right frame of mind, that I know that then I'm able to come in again tomorrow, do this, release it out, and help more people.
I love that. I love that balance. And what you talked about earlier in our episode, where you were working on forgiveness within yourself as you were going through this trial by fire with the real estate and your personal litigation and all of this. And so working with forgiveness opens the heart, and again, it's a balance, because we also don't want to just deny that this stuff is happening. We need to be informed so that we can be sovereign beings, because that is, I believe, sovereignty and liberation are the cornerstones of the spiritual journey. This is what you are here to do, is to free yourself, to free your soul, and to experience yourself as a liberated soul. And if we don't understand how we're entrapped, we can't do that. But it is this, like, the heart is such an important, it's also like it's such a dichotomy. The heart is a huge, huge part of your spiritual growth. And so it's this, like, this being sovereign in all ways. So even on the awakening of what is really happening in reality on this earth plane, and the devious, the shadows, the things that are really hard to accept that we come across, it's this practice within us of, okay, I understand that this is happening. I don't consent. I do not consent to this. I do what I can to remain sovereign, and I keep working on my heart. I keep dropping into my heart. I keep, that flow going, and I temper this information and the actions. That's what I love about what you're saying with the podcast that you do, that there's action that people can take. There are other practical things that people can engage with, and we can go into our hearts and work with our hearts from a spiritual perspective in our meditations and so forth, so that we can keep lifting our vibration. We can keep taking steps forward to make sure that we are also doing our good work to keep that vibration lifted, because the planet relies, as we keep bringing in this higher vibration on this planet, every individual that's raising their vibration is contributing to that. So we want to make sure that we're not neglecting that also. So I love that.
And like you mentioned, sovereignty, and that's one that I've gone really deep into. And it all happened because of the awakening. I started learning something, because when we're born, we're free, but yet we're not. Nobody's free. We're all slaves. We think we own our car. We don't own our car. We don't own our house. Everything is a trickery. And by going down, I've read over 20 books on this, but the guests that I get on, and I started taking course. Like, for example, when they're writing to me and it's Mr. Roy calling and all capitals, that's not me. That's the straw man. And it's something that takes a bit of time to start studying. But by learning this knowledge, you actually can get judges, you can get policemen, because all of these corrupt bailiffs, you can get them to back off, because everything they're doing is fraudulent. And once you understand the laws, the proper way to do things, so it's well worth researching, just doing a bit, and like just on it, because sometimes people, they go deep down and they start attacking everyone. The way I done that when I started learning this, it was like, I want to choose my battles. I'm going to do the easy ones first, because I knew I'm going to be attacked if I start doing this. And what I have got from a court coming after me to try to get me going in to back off, I've got a bailiff to back off, I've got a detective that wanted me to go in to back off. So that proves it works.
Wow.
And most people, they'd say, no, don't give them respect everybody. But when they're not respecting you, don't give them respect back. Stand in your ground. And I have screamed at judges in courts, and they put their head down and nodded, because they knew I was right. But yet I'd still lose because they'd rule in the wrong thing. But no, you don't even go into the court, because do they have jurisdiction over you? It's too deep to go into in this, but it's just something that I would recommend people of anything for our saving grace in this world, what's going on. I'm definitely seeing more and more people are actually getting into this. So that's why I'm bringing in more people on it, going deeper and deeper. Everybody's got a different angle. Everybody follows a different system. But at the end of the day, if it's working, that's the most important thing. And you just go, yeah, who said that they have control? Who said they can do this? Who said they can push whatever agenda they want? Did I agree to that? Did I sign for that? And once you understand that they need to do that, you have more power. And if you, like, a lot of the time they're writing it, they don't even sign it. They just have a name or the company. You actually don't even accept that. You go, I'm not dealing with anything. I want to deal with the person. So then when they're doing something fraudulent, you go after them, all their personal assets. You see them backing off. It's amazing. You think, no, like when you're doing it first, you're panicking. I remember the first few letters I was writing with this, I was like, scared. And now it's like, I enjoy it because I know what I'm doing is right, lawful, and what they're doing is not. And they run for the hills.
Is this across the board globally, like what you talk about? So because you're in Poland, you're Irish, but so for example, I'm in America. So if listeners of your podcast, like this would apply regardless of the country.
Yeah. So basically, the person that I got into this first, I just released it today. A second time she came back because it was the most popular. She was doing real estate in Florida, was selling over 25 apartments or houses, but she was also helping the poor. It wasn't just about it. And there was grants for the poor people. And they weren't giving it, they were keeping it. So when she went around and got it, they gave a fraudulent claim saying she was doing tax evasion and helping drug dealers. They gave her over 7 years in jail. And like she had kids and all of this, and she just basically made it her mission. She said she cried for the first 6 months, her mission to find out how could they do this to me. And eventually, so now she's teaching, and she's something like 76, 77. And it's incredible. Like she
stayed in jail?
She got over 7 years. It was like 8 years. She got out after 7 years and 2 months.
Oh my gosh. This is incredible. Oh my goodness, Roy. This has just been amazing. I thank you so much for being here today with me. I've really enjoyed connecting with you. We had a lovely discussion before I even started recording. The work that you're doing, I just really applaud you, and I thank you for helping people to awaken in the way that you are. And I honor the journey that you've been on that has been, unfortunately, you've had to have this firsthand experience, but of course that makes it the most powerful. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much, really. And just like one thing people, when they go through the journey, a lot of people, because everybody learns something from it. They come out a different person. I know I was on a different track, different thought processes. I have all the houses, all the cars. Life is different to me and it's better. So I know that happens with a lot of people. A lot of people that, I don't know if we say they're awake or whatever. A lot of the times, unfortunately, we go through. So we can't change what happened, but we can always go, it's for the best because now I'm a new person. I think differently and I'm helping more people and my health is better because I understand this. So like life happens, we get curveballs, but just don't be beating yourself up over it.
Yeah, I love that. How can people connect with you and find your work? I don't know, because apparently YouTube would not be the right place to do that. So.
Well, I have my personal one, but I can't put on kind of doctors and stuff like that. I started putting things, but basically you find everything on bio.link/podcaster. All my podcasts are there and everything about me.
Okay. And I'll put all of the info in the show notes as well, so people can just easily go in there and click. And great. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it.